used to be able to kind of assume that you'll have a more favorable outcome because you're an entertainer.
Doesn't work that way.
Not now.
Works just the opposite way.
Just the opposite way. With people like you got like Cosby, Weinstein now, R. Kelly, all who have been accused of some heinous acts. I'm talking about some terrible shit. But kind of the same shit as Elvis, if you think about it. You know what I'm saying?
In some ways, sure.
You know what I mean? So what is it about now that you think people are like, no, we're gonna make them pay?
Well, I guess with the three you just suggested, I think you've got an undercurrent that's more so than just a normal entertainer. I mean, you've got, with the MeToo movement and the rise in strength of women, both black and white.
Right.
You've got law enforcement believing that they can make huge gains in their own advancement by going after people that have committed, in their opinion, terrible crimes, and therefore to be looked at by the community as acceptable when they get prosecuted to the fullest. I mean, that's what happened with Cosby.
Yeah.
But for little drugs that he supposedly used, it's no different than anybody else. R. Kelly, underage girls, continue doing it. Weinstein uses power of authority. But with each of them, the biggest problem is somebody wants to use them as a stepping stone
For their career.
Right. Which really is not that unusual. It's always gone that way. It's just which people get stepped on during what time and part of civilization. Yeah.
And let's talk about another case that I guess we haven't really spoke about too much, but Epstein. Well, how much do you know about Epstein's case, and can you elaborate on what your reaction was when you first heard it?
Well, I know a little bit about it, not a great deal. I know that he was smart enough, if that's the right word, to hire the most powerful lawyers he possibly could to look after him in Florida, and managed, by doing so, to get essentially a deal of the century. But he didn't learn from that.
Now, what was the deal of the century that he got? I don't know about this part.
The feds were going to indict him for what would have been considered sex trafficking.
Okay.
But he managed to get the feds to back off of it and have the state of Florida prosecute him instead.
Okay.
And he spent some time in a county jail with all the privileges that one would ever want, as opposed to being prosecuted by the feds and spending time in federal custody.
So you mean the county jail where he essentially supposedly hung himself?
No, we're talking about down in Florida. He had an arrangement that he could have visitors. He could go to his own place during the day.
What?
It was as good a deal, almost as good a deal as you had. And he managed to get out of all the trouble, but he continued doing it. And when the MeToo movement hit again.
So what year was this?
This is in the 2003, 2004, 2005 period.
Got you.
That's when he had Dershowitz as a lawyer. He had all the power, everybody that knew anybody.
Right.
But then this time around, he had a U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, who said, you know what, we're going to go after you for all that because there's no statute of limitations for that kind of criminal activity in the federal system, which is why he wound up getting arrested, why he wound up not getting bail, and why, if you buy into it, why he killed himself.
Now, you said that, he had the most powerful attorneys who knew everybody. I've heard you say that you don't really pal up with judges or district attorneys or nothing.
Not my style. Just not my style. I'm just not that nice a guy. I hope to reach favorable outcomes based on mutual admiration and respect and hard work. That's not to say that on occasion somebody doesn't remember me and give me a good deal.
Right.
In fact, I can tell you, this is a real quick story. Years ago, I represented a man who burned down a courthouse in county south of Atlanta.
Okay.
And went up against one of the meanest prosecutors I've ever gone up against. His name was Caldwell, Johnny Caldwell.
Okay.
He just beat the living shit out of me. He and the judge managed to work their magic. My client got himself convicted. But years later, Johnny Caldwell became a judge in that same county. And when I used to go down there, he'd see me sitting in the courtroom. As soon as he came in, he'd say, "Mr. Sadow, I know you're a very busy man and need to get back to Atlanta, so we're going to handle your case first."
Damn.
But that wasn't because we were friends. That was because we had been adversaries and treated each other with mutual respect from our fight in the courtroom.
Right. I mean, you cannot watch you work and not develop a high level of admiration and respect for your work ethic.
Well, I think that's true for many, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, all the people who we've mentioned, I feel the same about. You and I just happen to speak most. We do a little.
We stay in touch.
We stay in touch. We do a little vacation in Aspen.
That was nice.
You know what I mean? He turned me on to the slopes in Aspen. And you actually have other recreational things that you like to do in Aspen.
Things that are legal.
Things that are legal in Colorado. Yeah, that's right.